this is Promo Insiders, a podcast from Counselor Magazine that delves into issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. And I'm Chris Ruvo for Counselor. Today, I'm joined by Lee Fine. He's head of sales and strategy at Seattle area distributor Juice Marketing. And we're here to talk about a mega campaign that Lee put together, something that really could have only come about in the age of COVID. It involves a Herculean kitting and fulfillment effort that spanned the globe, literally, and one of the most famous marathons in the world. Beyond delving into the campaign, Lee is going to share about how to handle custom kits and direct mail initiatives at a time when they're more in demand than ever. Lee, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to connect with you and see you in person. We've spoke a few times on the phone, but now I see your pretty face. So
yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's a disappointment, but we'll try to get past that. But anyway, listen. You're the focus of today, and this is really such a cool order, and I think something that's going to be pretty inspiring for a lot of people to hear about. So just at a top level, kind of give us a quick hit summary of what you did, who you worked with, all that stuff.
Sure, absolutely. So this was ultimately for the Boston Marathon, but that's not how or whom I started working with from the beginning. We started working with our client at Amazon, who was expected to be on site at the Boston Marathon back in April 20th. Obviously, which we all know, COVID put a big hamper on that happening in a live event. So the folks at Boston Marathon decided, you know what, let's do this as a virtual race, which is not uncommon. I would say that they were kind of first to market, if you will, as far as the big events, but virtual races have become a common theme in the past 8 months for sure. So we were going to support our client at Amazon the same way we normally would for any event that they go to, specifically with this group, which is a sports and outdoors team at Amazon, which was providing them with merch for their on-site activation. So when the whole opportunity came about to go virtual, their kind of ask of me was, how can we still kind of activate, even though we're not going to be doing an on-site activation? And that's where this kind of drop ship fulfillment project opportunity really started to come together and come to fruition.
Really sorry. Okay. So you kind of give us a little background. What was your relationship with Amazon? Kind of how did that come about? Because that's really key to landing this campaign.
For sure.
Right?
So we've done a lot of stuff with Amazon. Obviously, we're based here in Seattle. Amazon is headquartered here in Seattle. There's a handful of companies like Juice that work with Amazon. We certainly don't do their merchandise exclusively. There's a lot of people that do a lot of work with them. We work with a few different groups. Predominantly with this one group, we do a lot of video stuff. So we do video production in addition to merch and web development. But when they called for this event, there wasn't really a need for video, at least for Juice to participate in.
Okay.
Pardon me. It was the need was for a fulfillment project. And they wanted to leverage our experience and know-how in that kind of facet, even though we hadn't done a large fulfillment project with this specific team in the past. So certainly, like oftentimes, they ask, can you do this? We're not afraid to say no when we can't do something, but when we can, we are obviously excited to participate. And we said, absolutely. We run a variety of online stores and programs for other clients. So we knew this was in our wheelhouse. As we get into this conversation, there was parts of it that were definitely new to us or first-time experiences,
for sure.
Which is fine and quite an experience and a learning opportunity for sure. But overall, the theme of what they wanted to execute, we have many, many years of experience in executing.
All right, very, very good. Now tell us kind of, what would you say their goals were, or their objectives for the campaign? What did they want to accomplish? And then we'll get into all the nitty-gritty of how you did that.
For sure. So the Boston Marathon, I think, as most people know, is a pretty marathon, but that's how that one works. Whereas Boston Marathon, you really it's a capped 30,000 athletes, and you really have 30,000 legit marathon runners. This is not first time kind of, let's go for it.
Okay, got it.
So what they wanted to do was, even though these folks from all around the world were not going to kind of show up in Boston and run the traditional Boston Marathon, they wanted to provide them the same experience they would get if they were there, from kind of the get of merchandise, if you will. So what happens day of race? What happens prior to the race? What happens when you cross that finish line? They wanted to make it inclusive for a variety of their partners, not just Amazon, but Cliff Bar, Adidas, and many others, who can also
Okay.
participate in this activation and give these end users, these athletes, what they were going to originally give them had the event been held as normal.
All right, gotcha. So where does juice come into all that, and what do you provide and how much of it?
Great question. So what the Boston Marathon did for the pre-race kits, we did this twofold, a pre-race kit and a post-race kit. They put a cap on the pre-race kit at 15,000. The first 15,000 athletes who had qualified originally to run, who went online and said they would like to participate in the virtual race, qualified for this pre-race kit. And they put a cap for a couple reasons. One was they wanted to make sure there was still an interest from this group of 30,000 athletes to execute this virtual marathon. And two was, hey, if all 30,000 people do this, what's our budget? So they knew that the real kind of give that they wanted was the post-race box, because everyone gets that, even if you don't finish the race. Now, yours may not include a medal. We'll get to that in a moment. But that post-race box is that real coveted kind of keepsake. The pre-race is kind of, we all been to events, not to diminish the items inside that box, but the pre-race, that's not their focus when they show up to Boston. They want to compete and do their best. So they put that cap. It happened within hours. They reached that 15,000 within hours. And we put a cap, and the first 15,000 people that said, yes, I'm going to participate, got this pre-race box.
Okay.
The date for the event was between September and 14th, which means you will run that race sometime between the 7th and the 14th.
Gotcha.
And what the Boston
they had 7 days span to do it. Yeah.
Correct. And what the marathon folks, the Boston Athletic Association, who runs Boston Marathon, did was they connected with an app company and created a specific custom app that was sent to all the athletes. So that data of their running of their race was recorded and then sent back to the Boston Marathon to make it an
really
official
cool
time. Yeah. We didn't have anything to do with that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But that was how they were able to regulate the authenticity of each athlete's run.
All right. Very cool. So now these athletes, they obviously weren't coming to Boston, so they couldn't just, stop by a merch table or whatever it might be and pick up their stuff.
Right.
You had to get these things to people. And if I remember the number right, it was in 87 different countries that these runners came from.
It was. And that's the part what I mentioned a little bit earlier at the start of this of some key learnings. So we ship boxes. I'll show you. I've got one of them here. This is what the box looks like. This is your pre-race box. And inside is all your stuff.
Okay.
So I won't go item from item, certainly not here to kind of bore anyone, but there's some key takeaways here. Yes, you're correct. 87 countries. And for us, do we have experience shipping around the world? Absolutely. Do we have experience shipping to the Ukraine? Absolutely not. There is a handful of other countries like Morocco and the Ukraine that we didn't know what their customs and kind of duties and taxes issues were going to be. We know that there's kind of, for lack of better terms, problem countries. So like Brazil tends to be a problem country. It's just a little bit with the duties and taxes. Not here to upset anyone from Brazil, but there's we knew there's a couple of edible items that are in these kits and that are not well received in other parts of the world. So we definitely took out the Ensure bottle because that's a liquid and we knew it wouldn't get internationally, it wouldn't do well. We didn't quite think of some of the other items that got held up, pardon me, in some countries. So there was a Cliff Bar, which we thought we can ship to Mexico. It didn't. So we had some hiccups with items that had to be returned and then sent back out. All in all, of the 15,000 pre-race kits, we had less than 1% not deliver.
That's incredible.
Amazon and Boston Athletic Association were incredibly thrilled with that. But, from on the back end of things, there was quite, I had to become this kind of pseudo expert in Ukrainian duties and tax laws because I didn't know that there is a law that a third party shipper can't pay duties and taxes, that the recipient has to pay that tax.
One
who would
of
have known
one of
that?
the more interesting ones too, if I recall from our earlier discussion, was that I think it was Costa Rica,
It
right?
was
How, can you
correct.
tell people how like the addresses work there? It's
Yeah.
pretty wild if you're not familiar with it.
It's interesting. My daughter was supposed to go to Costa Rica this last summer, but the trip was canceled. But maybe had she gone, she would have learned this and explained it to me, and I would have been in better shape. The home addresses in Costa Rica, not necessarily all of them, but many of them, and many of them related to this project, work in a very different way than you and I and much of the
Mhm.
world is accustomed to. So an address could be 4625 Smith Road, 300 yards past the fire hydrant, two stop on the left. It
Right.
just that's the official part of the address. So in a lot of these countries, UPS will work with a third-party company. So they'll UPS, which pick up the packages um, in Ohio, kind of will see it through to delivery to the
Hmm.
participant or the receiver's front door. In other countries, there's a third party that comes on because one, they know the landscape, the geography
Sure.
much better, so they know how it works. Well, sometimes it doesn't always kind of translate well. So we
Right.
had a variety of folks from Costa Rica who were like, "Hey, I don't know where my package is," and it was very clear. It's 300 yards past the fire hydrant on the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some learning curve there. So again, on
So
the back end, it was a little bit of a headache, but it worked out.
and that's what I really liked so much about this order is because we talk so much nowadays about, hey, you don't just want to be, certainly I think everybody knows you got to be past the days of just being the quote order taker, right? Like you have to provide that consultative service, etc.
Sure.
But really what we're seeing now, especially in the age of COVID-19, is this whole next level layer of service where it's like you're almost becoming a logistics provider in many ways. And if you want to compete for these larger fulfillment jobs, you have to have those kind of capabilities and be willing to put in that kind of work. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, was there any magic formula to figuring this out, or was it just a
Well,
matter of you go on and you work with people over there, or how does that work?
yeah, no, it's a great question. And before I specifically answer that, I think what the other takeaway that's relevant to what you're asking, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people in our space aren't afraid to take on large projects
Mm-hmm.
or detailed projects because usually there's a very large merchandise component related to it. There
Mm-hmm.
was merchandise like this T-shirt or the official Boston Marathon medal
Mm-hmm.
or bottle openers from Sam Adams beer or
Mm-hmm.
pins, things that we do in this space every single day. And we
Mm-hmm.
didn't produce a single item in this box. We
Right.
produced the
Right.
box and we managed the fulfillment and shipment of that. But we didn't produce the merchandise. The merchandise is given by a variety of sponsors and people that the Boston Athletic Association have worked with for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And by no means were we wanting to go in and disrupt that and say we can do this. It was already done. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even an opportunity for us to do that. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people would say, well, hey, to your point, there's no merch. What's in
Mm-hmm.
it for me? Well, we having those kind of other things, those other tangibles that you're good at make a difference. So we do fulfillment every day and we
Mm-hmm.
do freight and logistics every single day. And I would say the number one kind of element to doing that and doing it well is organization. So we're the spreadsheets, 87 countries, we had a master tab and we had a tab for every single country.
Wow.
And the intent of that was when you're constantly being berated by UPS and others
Mm-hmm.
to respond to a lost package or I didn't get my package, so much easier. Yes, you can do a control F in Excel. So
Yeah.
much easier to go to that specific country tab and find out, okay, looks like 6 people were expected to receive packages in Morocco, 2 didn't. How come? So we know
Yeah.
it. Okay, we know they arrived in Morocco. We know it got through customs. Why didn't these 2 people get it? And it's just allowed us to be a lot more kind of flexible and reactive.
Yeah, and it's such a great, as you said, takeaway that you didn't do the merch itself, which is mainstay business obviously for all of us in this industry, was not what you focused on here. It was
Right.
that fulfillment aspect and of course the creation of a really cool custom box as
Sure.
well that had a QR code, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that now
Yep.
too, because in addition to all that logistics and fulfillment, you guys did a web splash page. and I think there was a QR code on the box, correct?
Correct.
That linked to it. So can you kind of tell us what all that was and how it
Yeah.
linked together?
Absolutely. So when the folks opened their pre-race box, there's the QR code. And what that did is you could see that there's a couple of different sponsors on here. There's an Adidas part up there, and there's Amazon, and then obviously the folks at Boston Athletic Association. So 3 kind of brands that are highlighted on this box. And Amazon and Adidas, who ultimately paid for this, wanted to have some real estate on the box, but also drive traffic back to Amazon to ultimately sell more merch, more Adidas gear. And so there's a specific page on Amazon that Adidas has, a storefront where they sell all their kind of marathon gear, shoes, wearables, and so on. And so the splash page intent was twofold. One was to highlight some videos of some well-known marathon runners. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not a marathon runner. So I can tell. Yeah,
oh, don't sell yourself short.
You probably thought I was, but I'm not. So have these kind of elite marathon runners give video encouragement to the athletes was one part. And 2, there was a link at the end to click on that splash page that will take you directly to amazon.com/Adidas to buy or check out the gear that they have.
Awesome. And really cool thing. I should mention too, by the way, that for anybody who's listening, drop a comment. We'll respond to questions if we can. Also, you get entered in a sweepstakes, I guess we'll call it, to win some Batch and Bodego line products from HPG. It's a new food and gift line from that top 40 supplier. So some cool stuff. There's my commercial for the day, Lee.
I get it.
But let's see. What were the results of the campaign? Kind of how did the client react? What was the reactions?
So we had 15,000 pre-race kits, and then we did an additional 18,000 post-race kits. So of the 18,000, I want to say roughly 14,000 and change actually completed the race. There's some people, because of the wildfires in California and Oregon and Washington, they've extended that timeline for participants to be able to finish it.
That makes sense. Sure.
That 1 week. Sure. So there will be some more that trickle in. So the second box was the the post-race box. And very different from that box to the first pre-race box was the variable data. So the same box, with the exception of the Ensure bottle that didn't go to international shipments. This item right here, excuse me for the noise, this is the item everyone cares about. And while they love,
and I should describe for people who are just on audio, Lee just held up a finisher's medal of the Boston Marathon. It's got that really cool unicorn logo that you're familiar with. If you know the Boston Marathon, that logo's on it, and it's like that shows that you did it, that you're the real deal. You finished that one of the world's most famous marathons.
Yeah, this is the bragging rights. Now, the Boston Athletic Association made a little bit of mistake of sending me a couple samples because I will now tell people and proudly wear my non-earned medal around my neck that I completed.
You don't wear that when you go to your kid's game or something like that?
There's 2 things I take with me. When I go to the store, there's 2 things I always have with me now. A mask and my Boston Marathon medal.
You got it.
So, they care about some of the other stuff. There's some patches. There's that sticker for those marathon runners out there that, put this 26.2 sticker on their car. For many years, I had no idea what that meant because I'm not a runner. But for many, it means a lot. But the medal was the part that really, you can't make a mistake. Someone can't run a marathon, earn a medal, open their box, excited to get that medal, and it not be there. And then also at the same time, they gave a post-race box to people who didn't finish the race so they can get the other kind of swag, but there couldn't be a medal in that box either.
No, you got to earn it.
You got to earn it. And then the second part was
custom box fulfillment on it, and then you get one.
Exactly. This T-shirt from Adidas. This is the official Boston Marathon T-shirt that Adidas donated. Also a high valued item, but again, for the
and I'll just describe again. I'm sorry, Lee, to cut you off for the audio listeners. No, it's a beautiful blue and yellow, like a royal blue and yellow. It's got the Boston Marathon logo on the left. John Hancock sponsor there, just below the left chest logo. So pretty cool.
So that post-race box was the one that, again, not less important as a expectation from the client perspective, but definitely had those guidelines of that less than 1% really needs to stick on this one. So the fortunate thing is we also were able to learn from the pre-race kit, some of
Okay.
those hiccups we had with countries we weren't familiar with shipping to avoid those issues. And I think, knock on wood, some are still shipping as we speak. They're all arriving safe and sound.
Very nice, very nice. So it's been a success. I'm curious what kind of feedback you've gotten either from
That's right. You
Amazon or
asked
from the
that.
Boston Marathon guys. What
Yeah.
have you been hearing from them?
So in the world we live in now, right, it's not about a client saying, hey, this looks good. It's all about the end user because of the world of social media. So the hashtag Finish Strong is alive and well, and that's the Boston Marathon's kind of hashtag on social. And there are a number in the thousands of people posting photos with their box. Just again, as you know, what we do on our side of the business, we don't get the recognition, and quite frankly, I never want the recognition outside. I am okay with the end user never knowing who Juice Marketing is. I care most about my clients knowing that we executed on their behalf and executed well. So their kind of measure is social media, and the response that they're getting on social media is, translated or sent over my way because they're thrilled with the outcome. The look of the box, the quality, the way we handled everything, and the social media kind of photos and shares that are being sent.
And when you say social media, people are doing the unboxing experience, right? Like that we hear about, right? They're pulling it out. They're saying, "Hey, this is what I got this from the Boston Marathon. Look at my finisher's medal. I did it." That kind of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think people would have done this anyways if they were at the Boston Marathon, I'm sure. So knowing that they're still able to get that kind of reaction from the athletes is really significant to them.
Yeah, and I don't want to like wax too poetic here, but in a way it's nice that can still be delivered to them, that they didn't have to miss out on that experience, that there's a sense of camaraderie that they have with other finishers, and that this shows that, and it makes them part of that club, even though we're all doing this distantly.
For sure, absolutely. And I think the Boston Marathon in recent years went through a pretty tragic event. And they rebounded. They are a staple event, not only in the Boston area, but around the country, around the world, frankly. And I think they continue to be that brand that people are really impressed by. They step up and they do the right thing. Obviously, Amazon and Adidas, who stepped up with the bill, deserve a tremendous amount of kudos because they spent significantly more money in a virtual race than they would have at an on-site activation. The freight and duties and taxes alone are pretty substantial.
Thankfully, though, I think you got to use Amazon's shipping, right?
Well, that was the
shipping number.
Yeah. Aside from them stepping up with their wallet, of course, Amazon said, let's ship this on our UPS account, because obviously, I don't care how big of a company or how small of a company you are in this industry, none of us can compete with the Amazon freight rates. So to be able to leverage their account number, and they also paid that bill on behalf of the Boston Athletic Association is hugely significant. And I mean, it's unbelievable.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. That was Lee Fine from Juice Marketing with some absolutely fantastic tips about direct mail initiatives and kitting and fulfillment at a time when demand for those initiatives is really just soaring. So we hope you gained some insights today that you can put into practice as you try to capitalize on this fast-growing market for the promotion and products industry. Thanks again for listening.